Give me 1 second. I need to read something really quick. Okay, it's 7 p.m. Everyone has their documents and such, I hope. All right.
May I call this meeting to order?
Real quick, sorry about that. First thing is going to be an official election of a chairperson. Each board, according to my trusty commission liaison reference guide, each board or commission shall meet as soon after the first day of October of every year to elect one of its members. This was a little weird because we were on a every other month schedule until September, and then September they voted, but then that vote didn't take effect till October 20th, and because we had an October 18th schedule, we had to have that meeting and then continue with the regular meetings for this one. So this would have been the first soon after. Okay, you guys, I think, understand in general. So as far as I would understand, it goes by a nomination and a second and a vote.
I nominate Jeffrey Gull to be our person.
I second the nomination.
Is there any other nominations?
Is there anybody that would like to be considered for that position? Okay.
All right. So we're going to go vote. All votes are going to be by roll call. My unanimous vote strategy was not accepted from the last meeting. So the election of Commissioner Jeffrey Gall as chairperson of the Public Safety Commission. We'll go to vote. Just yes or no, or abstain. Commissioner Hannon.
Yes.
Commissioner Coig.
Yes.
Commissioner Marinelli.
Yes.
And correctly, Commissioner Gupta.
Yes.
Is that correct how you say your name?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Gall, I don't know if the nominee gets a vote.
I'll abstain.
Okay. That actually makes the most sense. Thank you. Commissioner Kleinbaum
Yes.
and Commissioner Gittens is absent. Okay. And so elected for chairperson is Commissioner Gall, and we proceed with the agenda.
Will you have a vice chair?
I don't know. Did you guys elect a vice chair on prior occasions? If anyone has that experience, I would appreciate it.
I think Commissioner Marin was the vice chair, wasn't he? I think, but I don't
Commissioner
think we
Marinelli?
necessarily. No.
Damian
Marin.
Marin, he's now in budget and finance. Yeah.
He was on the commission. I think, I don't know at this point that we need one, because I think before we didn't have one.
In my guidebook, there just says chairperson. So I will check with the clerk's office staff, and if one is necessary, we'll take care of that. Let me see, sorry, really quick. Nope, just that a member of staff may hold your place in your absence. Okay. Proceed, Commissioner or Chair Gall.
I'd just like to say thank you very much. It's a real honor to be on the commission. Should we take a roll call there, Officer Lostrom?
You can officially call the meeting to order now
Okay,
that the
sounds
election
good.
is complete.
I'd like to officially call this meeting to order, and Officer Lostrom, if you could conduct a roll call, please.
Yes. Commissioner Hannon. I see him. I'm
Here.
there we go. Commissioner Coig,
Here.
Commissioner Marinelli,
Present.
Commissioner Gupta. Here. Chair Gall
Here.
and Commissioner Kleinbaum.
Here.
Okay.
Great. Let's salute the flag. If staff can provide a flag, we can salute. We're ready when you're ready.
See.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's go ahead with approving the order of agenda. May I get a motion for that?
I make that motion.
I'll second it.
Officer Lostrom, may I go ahead and just say all in favor? Would you like to do that?
I think we need to do roll call.
Okay, we have to do a roll call. Okay. He needs to get off mute. You wave to him.
Sorry.
That's okay. So just, we had a motion for approving
Approve the order of agenda. Commissioner Hannon,
Approve.
Commissioner Coig,
Yes.
Commissioner Marinelli,
Yes.
Commissioner Gupta, Chair Gall,
Yes.
and Commissioner Kleinbaum.
Yes.
So approved.
Great. Officer Lostrom, do we need to discuss any blue folder items?
Negative, no blue folder items.
Copy that. Let's go with the letter F, consent calendar. And do we need to do anything with the affidavit of posting or approval of minutes there?
Just a motion to approve the affidavit of posting and the minutes from the October 18th, 2021 meeting, which are both in your packet.
Sounds good. Can I get a motion for both?
I would make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
I think there's maybe taking a look at the minutes. I was looking at the attendees and there was somebody on there that was on as Commissioner Present, which is Lieberman, and then also absent is still on there. I think that's an error, probably should be corrected. Otherwise, I have to abstain because I obviously wasn't at the meeting, but I just happened to notice that conflict.
I don't think Commissioner Lieberman was there. I think he was absent because we only had 4. When Commissioner Marinelli had to drop off, we had to stop our meeting, remember? So I think that's a good catch, Commissioner Hannon.
So it could be approved subject to that correction of that error.
Approved subject to correction.
I make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second it. Well, I'm abstaining, sorry. Wasn't at the meeting.
Is there another second?
Okay.
I second it.
And Commissioner Hannon, you're abstaining. I'm
I'm
sorry.
abstaining.
Commissioner Koenig,
I approve it.
Commissioner Marinelli,
Yes.
Commissioner Gupta.
I'll have to abstain also because I wasn't able to
that
attend the
makes
meeting.
Chair Gall.
Aye.
And Commissioner Kleinbaum.
Aye.
And that is a majority. Okay. All right.
Great. Let's.
Approved.
Great. Officer Lostrom would like to proceed with G, excluded consent calendar items.
That's nothing on the excluded consent calendar.
Great. So we don't even have to rule out of that. We just go right to H. Public participation on non-agenda items. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on any subject that is not on the agenda? Each speaker will be afforded 3 minutes to address the commission. Officer Lostrom, is there anybody in the chat room, so to speak?
There are no e-comments and no attendees at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. I was just going to say that.
So hearing no one in for public participation for non-agenda items, do I need to get a motion to move on from that topic? Or that?
We can move on to item I.
Item I. Items continued from previous agendas. Officer Lostrom.
I have nothing. There is a continued conversation in regards to an update on the pallet shelter from the city prosecutor. We made a request and they declined attendance and providing an update. Other than that, it can be continued. You can continue to item J. Item J.
Great. Items for discussion prior to action. So Officer Lostrom, I'm just going to run through these really quick, but I don't think unless any of the commissioners have any updates on commendations, legislative review, quarterly report, or CERT. If anybody has any comments on any of those 4. Would this be a good time to make a motion on maybe striking one of these subcommittees and adding a new one?
Yeah. Yes. Any so business can be conducted at the direction of chair or a motion by a board member.
I'm sorry, my audio gave up. Can you repeat that?
Oh, sorry. You guys can take legislative action at the normal, motion by a board member and a second. Your standard, and then by majority vote.
Okay.
Commissioner Gall, what committee are you thinking of getting rid of?
I see that we have a couple of bicycle gurus on our board, and I thought it might be great. I know Alan, these meetings will run 4 hours if we let him run the subcommittee, but I was thinking of the bicycle safety subcommittee. And maybe moving on from the CERT promotion subcommittee, striking that one out and replacing it with bicycle safety, and getting some good substantive conversation on that, maybe once a month or few times a year. But if anybody wants to make a motion for it, I'm just for adding bicycle safety subcommittee and striking out the CERT promotion, because we're not doing a lot of public promotion without the police support these days due to the COVID environment. That would be my 2 cents on that matter. And any thoughts are more than welcome. Thank you.
I make a motion to do that. I'm okay with it. Thank you.
I would vote to add a subcommittee, but I don't at this point want to get rid of a subcommittee, because I think that the CERT support and promotion subcommittee is important. We just haven't had somebody involved in that, dealing with the CERT, and they haven't been doing any of the certification. So because of COVID, and I'm not sure, I have to ask Officer Lofstrom if there's any of those programs on right now. Perhaps they're virtually, but I would be okay with adding a committee, but not striking one at this point.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. We also should appoint people potentially. And I think Commissioner Marinelli and I talked about the homeless subcommittee, but we haven't done anything with that at this point.
Well, I will just chime in that I anticipated some cooperation from the city prosecutor's office when it was regarding anything we have with the homeless subcommittee. I thought that would be a good baseline. We all know this past year there was the push from the city attorney's office to get that started. And now I think that I just need to go out and be a bit more aggressive regarding the homeless subcommittee. So I look forward to taking on that challenge with Commissioner Coig.
I agree. I think we need to be a little more aggressive, especially since we haven't had the prosecutor's office here for months to give us an update on anything in the prosecutor's office.
I would like to amplify I know you want to add another, it sounds like add another line item for committee, bicycle. I would like to see that change to livability committee, subcommittee, which encompasses basically anybody that participates in active transportation, which is bicyclists, pedestrians, people that basically move naturally throughout the city. Otherwise, anyway, I'd like you to consider that change.
I would agree with that.
I agree with Commissioner Hannon.
Any other comments? I think Commissioner Gall's having technical difficulties at this point.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you are back.
Okay, I'm going to donate these headphones to e-waste recycling, and I apologize. I missed a lot of the discussion as my computer speaker finally gave out after all these years. Did anybody have a motion to vote on in regards to committee creation?
We've had some modifications. I think Commissioner Hannon made a comment that you might want. I'm not sure you heard.
Go ahead, Commissioner Hannon.
Yeah, I'd like to change the bicycle subcommittee to active transportation. Active transportation encompasses basically anything that's a natural movement without a gasoline motor on the city streets. And I think the safety of pedestrians, bicyclists, and others are equally important. And I think that I would definitely like to also sit on that subcommittee.
Including the golf carts I see pulling off Aviation to head over to Rite Aid, yes.
Well, that's a way of the future. A lot of e-devices. I mean, that's what we're seeing right now, and we're going to see a lot more. whether we like it or not. So we need to be prepared for it, I think.
Okay, great. Did anybody want to make a motion?
Should we include, sorry, should we include electric vehicles within that? Or just vehicles? Is that what you guys are considering or what you're considering?
Well,
Commissioner Hannon?
I was considering active transportation, but which is not necessarily considered people on e-devices. However, interesting enough, if they're e-bicycles, for example, which are very popular right now, and if they're class 1 or class 2, they have to participate. That means they actually have to be active on that bicyclist. So they are, in fact, part of the active transportation. Now, golf carts are a little bit different because there's no activity there. So, I mean, we could include that. I think that I've also been working with COG, and I know that they're proposing a particular network, a prototype that will be going through North Redondo Beach that will, in fact, compass e-devices as well as people participating in active transportation. So I have no problem with certainly the subcommittee addressing both for all of these items.
Yeah, maybe it should just be all non-automobile transportation, because automobiles are regulated by the DMV. So maybe coming up with a lot of other, figuring out the other criteria, the safety protocols for the non-automobiles would be worthwhile.
Well,
I was going to ask Commissioner Gupta, is there also, when you're saying non-automotive, are you thinking about Bird and those other scooters and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe just because, how, maybe philosophically, how can we, other forms of transportation share the roads with cars, Maybe that could be the question of the commissioner.
Commissioner Hannon?
Well, it's a little bit more broad than we originally discussed, but, I think it's worthwhile. I think, unfortunately, it has not been discussed. And I think that we're, when we saw the increase in cyclists in the last 2 years, it's been way over 200%. And we were not prepared for that. Now, all of a sudden, we're seeing e-devices out there, which in fact are birds, are e-carts, are e-bikes. We're seeing a 400% increase in the sales. And we're not prepared for that either. So I think from a safety standpoint, we could do a lot more for that, in that subject. So lumping these together in the way of micro technology as well as active transportation, I think would be a good idea. And I would support it, by the way.
I have a question. Commissioner Gupta suggested all automobiles a motorcycle is not an automobile. Do you want to include that in there?
Not sure. I mean, I guess motorcycles and cars have there's already a lot of safety protocols for both those devices. I think Commissioner Hannon is talking about all the newer modes of transportation, as well as, other forms of transportation you don't normally think about, like pedestrians and just normal bikes. I don't know, whatever you guys like, whatever the committee.
How about if I take the action to come up with a good name for this committee, a subcommittee, and that would include microtechnology, which right now is considered basically e-devices. And the reason we don't identify specific devices because, we have scooters, we have a lot of this technology is emerging almost daily, and it's been very popular. So by the time we put the committee together, there's going to be additional micro technology. So let me come up with a term to call this that would encompass, I think, everything we talked about.
Well, and just my 2 cents, I would not include motorcycles if they use gas. Then I think it would, and it's regulated by DMV as well. So I don't think that should be included.
It basically is environmentally sensitive ways to get around, which I agree with. And the devices, however, electricity may not always come from a definitely environmentally sound source, but certainly is much certainly better for the environment than it is for gasoline burning vehicles. So they would not be included in this subcommittee, not if I'm going to be part of it.
Well, I would make a motion to add that subcommittee regarding the e-devices Commissioner Hannon talked about, and we can talk about the specifics of it perhaps and put it on the agenda for the next committee meeting or commission meeting.
I agree. I would land something now, get your 2 points now and go for the 2-point conversion next meeting. We could do that referrals to staff. So do I hear a motion to add a subcommittee with a kind of a broad title for now?
I make that motion.
I'll second it.
Officer Lostrom, could you do the courtesy of the roll call for us?
Commissioner Hannon,
Approve.
Commissioner Coig,
Approve.
Commissioner Marinelli,
Approve.
Commissioner Gupta,
Approve.
Chair Gall,
Approve.
and Commissioner Kleinbaum.
Approve.
So during the debate, modified to adding just the addition of one subcommittee, RE, e-transportation, that's to be named at a later date. Is that correct, Chair?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I would like to go down to number 5, homeless subcommittee. And I am delighted to hear of any topics regarding this with the subcommittee formed for this purpose.
So I think that's Commissioner Marinelli and I, and at this point, we haven't had an opportunity to meet or talk about it. And other than the pallet shelter that's going on, which we haven't gotten an update from the city prosecutor's office, I don't have anything to report at this time. I don't know if Commissioner Marinelli has anything to report.
Chair Gall, as you were going through some temporary audio difficulties, this is where I voiced my disappointment in not hearing back from the city prosecutor's office regarding this. So Commissioner Coig and I decided we would step it up and become a bit more aggressive and tackle this on our own without depending on anybody else. It's not fair to be unable to give a report, so we will do diligent work. Next meeting, we will have a full report for you and the public, most important.
Yes, I'm just a plain old commissioner on a commission. So I would say it would definitely be for the public. And who are our Officer Lostrom, just a little bit of input from your side. Who are the homeless advocate NGO leaders? I forget the name of the NGO that maybe Commissioner Marinelli and Commissioner Coig could maybe reach out and pick up the phone and talk to them for data and perspective from their side and add that to the report for the public.
Hold on, I'm Googling NGO.
Nonprofit.
Oh.
I forget there's a homeless specialist that's attached to the Redondo Beach Police Department that's really good in dealing with issues like this. And I thought that maybe she would be really good at helping with this report, getting some input. I would think that she'd return a call pretty quickly.
Maybe Officer Lofstrom, you can just email Commissioner Marinelli and I that information and we can reach out from there. Would be fine.
Are you looking for someone specifically, one of their employees specifically, or?
I think we can just send them the information on Harbor Interfaith.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yes, sir.
From the pellet shelters, so we can get them a contact there.
Yes, thank you.
Roger that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so make a motion to close committee reports. Do I hear a motion for that, or does anybody have any further discussion?
I did have a question regarding the homeless subcommittee. Does that also include the homeless court? And if it does, is that open to the public? Can anybody sit in on this court, or is it just homeless?
So I can answer some of that. I have been to the one homeless court. I haven't been able to go to another one, but it's at the annex. It's outside. It's open to the public. You just have to go through security like you're going into a courthouse. And you can watch all of the proceedings and see all of the folks either graduating, progress reports, the city prosecutor. There's all the different agencies that provide services. There's the public defenders are there as well. And it's pretty informative and it's pretty amazing what they have been able to do. And I've seen, in fact, the last time I went, the DA was there, Gascon, the city attorney, Mike Fuhrer, and there were city councilmen. There was somebody from the assemblyman's office kind of watching it, and they're probably going to mimic it or at least model it on some bigger form or bigger fashion, I should say, at some point. So it's getting a lot of press and publicity. It's worth going to if you can. I think it's on a Wednesday, I think, once a month. I don't remember which Wednesday.
The next homeless court is November 17th, Wednesday, which is 2 days from today. And that's at 8:30 hours, 8:30 a.m.
If I could add too, the people that you want to speak to, they're going to be at the homeless court. So all the NGOs, all the nonprofits, all the people you want to speak to, they're going to be at that homeless.
The city prosecutor and the city attorney often attend also.
Want to make your job easier and actually talk to them in person. Again, come down this Wednesday and you can get the information from them right there. They'll all be there.
Thank you. I plan on attending that. It sounds very interesting. The other thing I was going to add, I don't know if I can add myself. I don't know the protocol here yet, but I definitely want to be part of the legislative review committee. I worked tirelessly to pass many of the bills that are they're going through the Senate, as well as California legislation right now to improve safety around schools and so on and so forth. So I'd be happy to report out on that.
Do I hear a motion to add Commissioner Hannon to that committee?
I make that motion.
Do I hear a second? I would love to second, but I think I'm chair. I can't do it.
I'll second.
Get a quick roll call on that? Or do we need another person?
Commissioner Hannon, do you wish to abstain?
Yes.
Commissioner Koenig?
Aye.
Commissioner Marinelli?
Aye.
Commissioner Gupta?
Yes, I agree.
Chair Gall?
Approve.
And Commissioner Kleinbaum?
Approve.
Majority approves.
Great. So let's see what's next. May I make a motion to close the committee reports and also the creation of committees in J1?
Are you making that motion?
I'm looking for closing J1.
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Vote to close. Commissioner Hannon?
In favor.
Commissioner Koenig?
Aye.
Commissioner Marinelli?
Aye.
Commissioner Gupta?
Agree.
Chair Gall?
Aye.
And Commissioner Kleinbaum?
Approve.
Unanimous to close J1.
And I'll take it to J2 with Chief May. Go ahead there, Jason.
Good evening, everybody. Good to see everybody. I'd like to welcome our two new commissioners, Commissioner Gupta and Commissioner Hannon. Nice to meet you. I am the fire department representative for the Public Safety Committee. I do a very brief report on kind of what we're doing and what's going on in the fire department. So I'll get started that tonight's report will be very brief. But we'll walk through kind of what's been going on at the fire department. So emergency responses, in October, we've had a total of 704, which is kind of on par for what we usually do, the kind of work we're usually doing for this time of year. The most common call was approximately 400 or exactly 446 medical calls or medical aids, as they're known in the station, but that's just any sort of call for a medical emergency in the city. We've had 17 water-related calls, whether that's swimmers in distress or watercraft that needed to be towed inside our harbor. Some significant incidents within that package of 704 emergency responses. On October 8th at about 1 o'clock in the morning, we at the Shade Hotel, occupant there had a lit candle adjacent to their bedside table. That candle got up into the curtains. That curtain propagated fire up into the ceiling, which then activated their built-in sprinkler system, which put the fire out prior to our arrival. It turned on the fire alarm system. We arrived, we stopped the water from flowing, which can actually cause quite a bit of damage. But the occupant had some minor burns, was transported up to the hospital. But that was a good save by the built-in fire suppression system there at that brand new Shade Hotel. So good save there for the engineering in the building, stopping a major problem. Second major incident, you can see it right there in that picture off to the left-hand side. That is a very high voltage power line along PCH, which had actually burned through over the course of the night. We'd had some light rain, which created a conduction pathway halfway through the pole. It burned through on its own throughout the middle of the night and eventually just came down, arced all those wires. How you may have seen this as commissioners in the city was at PCH from Palos Verdes Boulevard to the First Street in Torrance. I forget what it is, just east of where this telephone pole was shut down for over 12 hours while they pulled the old pole out and put the new pole in. Last little incident of note in the last month has been at 107 South Francisca. It's a senior housing facility. Owner occupant there turned on their oven. They had left something flammable inside their oven. I don't even know what it was. It's some sort of food item. As the oven heated up, caught that food on fire. Fire came actually out of the oven itself, escalated up into the ceiling. Again, the fire suppression system, the fire sprinklers there, turned on, put the fire out, and our resources arrived about the time that fire suppression system had put everything out. So 2 good saves by our engineering and city and our requirement to have fire sprinklers in all new construction. As commissioners, if you're curious as to where we're at versus our normal years, last year to date, we ran about 6,435 calls. We're roughly about 100 ahead of that for this year to date. And probably by the end of the year, we'll probably be somewhere in the 150 to 200 additional emergency calls by the time we round out. So we'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of 76 to 7,800 as we round out the end of the year. So we continue to see increased demand for our services. We still don't have a really firm estimate about why that is, except for people seem to be using the fire department more than where we were several years ago. As a frame of reference for some of the commissioners here that are new to the board, approximately, we'll call it 2010, 2011, we had about 5,000 calls for service annually. We've increased by almost 50% in the last 12 years. So people just seem to use 911 for a lot of different reasons these days, as I'm sure the police officers can also echo. Stuff that's going on in the fire department, that's actually a picture on the left-hand side of the holiday stroll where we had a bunch of trick-or-treating going on in Hollywood Riviera. Very successful event, a lot of people out and about. It's nice with COVID to see everybody out. Most people were wearing masks and such, but it was, I would say, a very successful event where we brought the community together in a safe and effective way right during Halloween. The fire department has been partnered with the school district and the Beach Cities Health District, offering obviously voluntary vaccinations for COVID. That's where I was earlier this evening, assisting the community that is interested in getting vaccinated for COVID, vaccinated. So to date, and I'm sure we did another 300 a day, but we vaccinated approximately 1,100 children in the Redondo Beach area. The Redondo Beach Fire Department evaluation, which is being hosted by which is being done by a collaboration of the current sitting interim fire chief, Keith Kaufman, who also is serving as our police chief. He's evaluating the department for looking for efficiencies. He's partnered with a retired operations chief, Chief Joe Castro from LA City. They've done a draft of that report. It's been delivered to city staff. They're currently evaluating that, and that should be released to the council first in the forthcoming months. So when I have something I can share with you, I would love to share that with you. And last little nugget is that Chief Kaufman continues to serve as our interim fire chief for the foreseeable future. Last little nugget, I always leave you with a safety tip, and I'll kind of dazzle you with a video on the right-hand side of video. Obviously, with Thanksgiving approaches, we have a lot of cooking safety tips. Kitchen fires are the #1 cause of residential fires. And obviously, with everybody and their turkeys, where people are spending a lot of time there. So they're asking you to remain 3 feet apart from all appliances, from all people inside the kitchen if you're cooking. And if you're going to fry a turkey, which is not recommended, make sure you defrost the turkey and then make sure that there's not too much oil inside the pan, which is what you saw happen there. This is actually a simulated fire inside a lab, the video there. And obviously becomes quite dangerous if you've ever had a grease fire in your kitchen, you put water on it, it actually gets bigger rather than smaller. So you want to put the lid on, put baking soda on it, but don't spread water on it unless you want it to get bigger, because that's what these firefighters are doing. They're actually spraying water on boiling hot grease. So as a conduit, keeping that 3 feet of a safety zone around where you're cooking, making sure all your smoke detectors also work is a great safety tip. And obviously, this is a very dramatic video, but it is no joke. This is a very realistic hazard. I can assure you that your fire department will go on 2 to 3 cooking-related fires on Thanksgiving for people that haven't used their kitchen in a long time or elect to do what has happened in this video here. And it's a lot more serious problem, as you can see this fire escalate into the structure itself than you could believe. So also make sure those smoke detectors work. We always recommend everybody that still has batteries in their smoke detectors, change them at the time change, which just occurred for us. Most people in their homes now have 10-year life battery smoke detectors. So that concludes my report for this evening. I'd like to open it up to any questions for the commissioners, especially the new commissioners, like what the fire department does, what I can help, what information I can get for you in future reports. In general, I just kind of give you our statistics and talk about interesting things that we've done in terms of emergency responses, which you may have heard of or wanted to know about in your community.
Thank you so much. That was really informative. I think I was told by one of the council members that you guys, one of the things you're looking at, right, is a lot of emergency calls and how to perhaps make that a little bit, you're saying finding more efficiencies and everything. So I'm in medicine, I'm a physician, and I work with healthcare systems as well. But I was wondering, out of the 446 medical calls, how many of them ended up actually going to the hospital? Do we know? Do we have a statistic on that?
I can give you anecdotal information. I don't have that data at my fingertips. In future reports, I can probably give you a better estimate of that. Okay. I would say in excess of 80% end up going to the hospital. Okay. So it's probably a higher percentage than you would think. As partners in public safety, sometimes the issues are a police/fire issue, and we'll go and, we get people down all the time. People drive by, see somebody passed out, they'll call 911. We will go, and the police department will go, and they'll go and figure out what's going on with that person. If it's a medical emergency, or if it's a law enforcement issue, or if the person's fine, they're just taking some rest. So those would be probably that 20% that aren't going. But in general, when people call us, typically they're going to the hospital. Okay. But there's also a triage system within that where we determine whether they need paramedic care or EMT care. So if they have an acute or advanced life support system problem, our paramedics, the city trained paramedics, provide care to them. And then if they're not as critical of an injury or not a critical medical patient, they'll go with the EMTs, which is McCormick's ambulance that takes them.
Okay. And then, how did the fire department, how does it just in that algorithm, which patients does the fire department go to?
So we go to all of them. Okay. We're currently in the process, as part of one of the efficiencies we're looking to build, is a better triaging system for our dispatch system. And there's several national models. I know this speaks to Commissioner Kleinbaum, who would like to see perhaps less sirens. And one of the best steps we can take in that is better triaging our call taking. People, and as a physician, aren't professional 911 callers. But our dispatchers are professional, and they can actually have a triaging tiering system of deploying our resources, because right now we don't effectively do that. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why that is, but that is the next step for us. It has been funded as part of this fiscal year budget for us to better do that triaging within our dispatch. So we're setting more resources when they're needed and less resources on when they're not needed. So, and that is something that would help us manage that higher call volume.
You need, I'm not sure if I can do this as a commissioner, but do you need assistance with that? I would love to help with that triaging, but I don't know if you guys already have enough help with it.
So it's actually a pretty serious and well-used algorithm, which would buy a off-the-shelf system that's used by a large metropolitan fire department that use that because they have hundreds of thousands of repetitions in that triage to make sure that we're not making errors or spending resources where you can get in trouble. But I appreciate the enthusiasm, and obviously as we move forward in that process, it's something we've looked at going to for a very long time, but it's really required the assistance of the police chief in helping us getting down that path, because it's a significant amount of training for our dispatchers. And there's some trepidation of like changing how we do business because we worry about not bringing enough when we.
Yeah, of course.
So, but I will give you obviously reports, and if there is an opportunity for us to include you, obviously we would always look for insider participation where we can get it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before we go to Commissioner Hannon, I would be delighted to see Dr. and Commissioner Gupta agendize that for a future discussion. Go ahead, Commissioner Hannon.
Yeah, thank you, Chief May. I can't thank you enough for your service, as well as the people that are in the fire department, as well as the police department, by the way. And I know firsthand, this is not necessarily a job. It seems to be a lifestyle with the firemen. I know my father-in-law was a retired fire chief, and I know what he went through and a lot of stories, I'll tell you. But what I had is a question regarding the safety. It's safety related, but not necessarily fire related. And that was, I was wondering if you could explain to me what the COVID-19 vaccination mandates are for the city of Redondo Beach, and maybe how many public employees that are in fact vaccinated or fully vaccinated at this particular point. Do we have that kind of information?
I can share with you the anecdote. Well, I know exactly what the numbers are for the fire department. I'm not privy or can disclose what other departments within the city itself, what their numbers look like. We have not required year to date a mandate of being vaccinated as an employee. We have exactly 83% of our workforce is vaccinated, which in public safety today is a very high number in general when compared to other larger organizations. And that's completely vaccinated. That's not one shot or two shots. That's everybody's followed the full series of shots. For employees that are not fully vaccinated, they're required to be COVID tested every time they return to work, and obviously show proof of a negative COVID vaccination. In terms of the state and county mandates, that's something that's being navigated very carefully. We want to kind of walk the most cautious pathway down there. Obviously, public safety is our number one concern, but making sure our workforce is engaged and participatory in that process is a challenge that we're kind of walking that path as we speak. So, but all of our employees are tested on a regular basis, and they're vetted every time they come to work in a personal screening tool that they don't have any COVID-like symptoms. And the city's been very collaborative in kind of us navigating that process. So I know you're reading the stories about LA County Fire Department, LA City Fire Department, Sheriff's Department, LAPD, which have very much lower rates of vaccination. And the challenge is making sure our people still want to come to work and able to provide the service that we're committed to providing you as citizens. So.
Well, certainly 83% is a respectable percentage, and it's far bigger than I thought it might be. But anyway, I want to thank you for that information. It's very reassuring to the people out there that might need these services and have already been vaccinated, and very conscious of how this virus has moved around. So thank you.
All of our employees are required to wear, whether they're vaccinated or not vaccinated, a full N95 mask, eye protection if needed, a gown if protected, if needed, gloves. So they're always wearing that N95 respirator mask to prevent any sort of, in the different ways of triaging that out, they're wearing a full set of PPE anytime on any call. So
I'd like to just echo Chairman Hannon. Thank you for your service, and thank you for all that. I'm really impressed with that. 83% is really good. So really good.
Thank you. Well, commissioners, does anybody have any additional questions? Otherwise,
May I have one question, Commissioner Marinelli here? Over this past year, we've spoken about how we are sharing administrative duties without and through the beach cities. Is there a way you could maybe expound upon how it's going in the South Bay that we are sharing amongst the three beach cities?
So that initial concept was kind of vetted or explored in the springtime. There are a lot of dynamics within the small beach cities. And this is one of the challenges that is always presented in this program in doing something like this. I grew up in the South Bay, and I've gone through 3 or 4 iterations of us sharing a common fire department, common administration. But there are some very turbulent waters in our region. Not so much Redondo Beach, I feel like, is in a good place, but some of our other cities are going through some peaks or valleys, and those have presented some challenges in terms of us combining those. And then the big picture is that for us, at least, I can't speak on the behalf of anybody else but our organization, the real efficiency would be a true unification of resources, and not just sharing a fire chief or sharing my position, which would be a battalion chief. Those are some cost savings, but the real opportunity to become more efficient, effective, and become more cost effective is truly combining it. And that's going to require whatever participatory cities to be 100% on board, both from a city administration perspective and from a council member perspective. So right now we're still in a holding pattern, but there is some very challenging times being experienced by our partner fire departments in the region for a whole bunch of different reasons, which I don't want to get too far off into. But it's being looked at. It's still on the table. I just don't have something firm to tell you exactly what that's going to look like.
I think you give us an awful lot to be proud of, and thank you very much for your service. I echo what the other commissioners had to say. Great job.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. When I have something for you, I would always share it with this group. Obviously, we look to share our mission, what we do, and want to bring you on as early as we can, because obviously you're very influential in the community, and are in a great talking piece for us to share kind of where we're going and what we're doing. So when I have that kind of information, I'll always bring it to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Chief May, keep those crowds under control as we get back in person. It's that UCLA weekend was something else. My wife was on campus, and I'll leave it at that. May I make do I hear a motion to end J2?
I make that motion.
I second the motion.
Officer Lostrom.
Commissioner Hannon,
Approve.
Commissioner Coig,
Aye.
Commissioner Marinelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Gupta,
Approve.
Chair Gall,
Aye.
and Commissioner Kleinbaum.
Approve.
So approved unanimously.
And I'm going to assume that J3 is not applicable due to the city prosecutor not being here at this time. Is that correct?
Correct. City prosecutor is absent.
Okay, let's move to J.
Well, can I comment first before we move? And again,
Yes.
this is there's it's been months since we have them. We're on Zoom. It's not like somebody has to stay late in the office. They could do it from the comfort of their house. It really would be nice. We all take the time to be here, and so does the fire department and the police department. So I find it at this point almost snubbing their nose at us by not coming. I understand we're all busy, we're overworked, and we're understaffed, but I think the city prosecutor's office, as part of the public safety, should be at the Public Safety Commission and should be reporting on the public safety and what's happening in crime in the city, especially with what's going on with Gascon and crimes and juveniles. I think it's really important, and I don't know how to impress upon them that, or have the public call the city prosecutor's office and ask them why they're not coming to tell people what's going on in their city. So I think they need to be at the next meeting. And I know we've agendized this a few times, and we've asked about the pallet shelter program, among other programs that they're doing in the homeless court. So again, I just want to make a comment that I think that it's important that they be here, and I'm not sure how to get them here. And just saying that they're busy, we're all busy. And again, it's not like they have to stay at the office and attend a meeting. We're all on Zoom. They can do it from the comfort of their house. There's more than one city prosecutor. I've met several that have come to the meetings. They don't all have to come. There's only one that needs to be here, and they need to come to report on the city or to the city.
Do I hear a motion for staff to write a letter for this? Or Commissioner Kleinbaum, did you have some input?
Yeah, I just had a comment. I completely agree with Commissioner Coig. And what I was thinking is if we could put in a request to the city manager to require the city's attorney's office to participate at all the Public Safety Commission meetings.
I just want to say, as your liaison for the Public Safety Commission, I have sent email requests and made our requests often. So I've reached the limit of my powers as your liaison to the Public Safety Commission. So yeah, my recommendation would be just perhaps contacting a city council person, the appointer of, I know each of you were appointed by a specific city council person, making your concerns to them, or having the chair draft a letter, something of that nature. So I've kind of exhausted all of my lawful and plausible efforts. So I think
I would make a motion perhaps to have our chair write a letter and CC the mayor and asking them to come, and maybe we can specify how many times they've missed the meetings. We can go back through the minutes and find out they've missed at least 5 meetings, if not more. We haven't heard from them. Probably, I don't even know that they've even been on, maybe one time we've been on Zoom with them. I'm not sure. So it's been a long time. So I would make that motion.
Before I hear a second, would the draft of the letter be to Mike Webb and CC William Brand, and then I would write that letter copying Officer Lofstrom and perhaps Lieutenant Freeman, and then upon receiving any feedback, it would go through Officer Lofstrom to the rest of the commissioners on a BCC email?
I think so, unless somebody has another suggestion.
well, someone will make the motion, and then it'll either get seconded or not.
Okay, Commissioner
And then
Hannon?
the motion can be, if someone doesn't second and someone makes another motion, then it'll go for debate once it's second.
Got it. Commissioner Hannon, real quick, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just looking at, of course, recently I read the powers and duties of being a public safety commissioner, and it says shall advise mayor and city council on all matters related to public safety. So it sounds to me, I don't know if Mike Webb would be appropriate, but certainly the mayor and city council would be. And it is making that as requirement as part of our duties. So I think it's consistent with who we are, and we should go forward with that.
May the chairman write the email to all members of the city council without violating a Brown Act on there, Officer Lofstrom? Just curious if I wrote a group email on that and copied you.
I think you should write it to the mayor. I think it might violate the Brown Act if you write a letter to all 5 commissioners.
Yeah.
I mean,
If you
councilmen.
include a quorum of commissioners, you are at risk of generating a discussion which would violate the Brown Act.
Yes, so I would just write to the mayor and to the city attorney and then just copy Officer Lofstrom and myself and leave it there. Does that sound like a good technical approach?
I have a question. Why would we not want to include the city manager? They report to the city manager, or am I wrong?
Like Mike Watansky, because Joe Hefkin is going out of office.
He's gone.
He's gone. Great guy. Yeah, we'll go to Mike.
I'm happy for you to do whatever that you feel necessary to do, because obviously my request for this month that I asked for last month for this month fell on deaf ears. So whatever you feel is appropriate, I'd follow your lead and second any motion.
Okay, I'd love to hear the draft for the motion and the second and the approval. Feel free, commissioners, go ahead.
So I would make a motion that you write a letter to the mayor as well as the city attorney and the city manager, and you should CC yourself and you should CC Officer Lofstrom regarding our request to have a member of the city prosecutor's office here, if all possible, at every public safety commission meeting so that they can inform us as well as the public as to what's going on in that office.
Great.
I would second that.
Commissioner Hannon,
I'm in favor.
Commissioner Coig,
Aye.
Commissioner Marinelli,
Aye. Commissioner Gupta.
Approve.
Chair Gall.
Yes.
Commissioner Kleinbaum.
Approve.
So approved unanimously.
Okay, great. Do I hear a motion to close this topic?
I make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Hannon,
Approve.
Commissioner Coig,
Aye.
Commissioner Marinelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Gupta,
Approve.
Chair Gall,
Aye.
and Commissioner Kleinbaum.
Approve.
So closed, unanimous vote.
Great. Let's go to J4, discussion of recent law enforcement events, crime recap. Take it away, Officer Lofstrom.
Hello, my name is Officer Kyle Lofstrom of the Redondo Beach Police Department. Nice to meet the new commissioners here. I know we only have 2 out of the 3 new ones. Congratulations on being present with us. You'll have to forgive me. Some of my normal presentation is going to be here because I don't have access to my work computer because I am in Northern California at a super awesome training class that I am enjoying very much. So I'd like to direct your attention in the crime recap to the monthly crime activity report, which is going to contain most of what we discuss with catalytic converters, commercial burglaries, residential burglaries. They separate a residential garage burglary because that's usually filed as a second degree burglary. And they separate Estes robberies from typical robbery also. One thing I'd like you to take notice of is the areas of focus with these on the map. Obviously, a lot on the Artesia corridor, there, Hawthorne around the mall, the corners of the city on Manhattan Beach Boulevard and Aviation and Marine. And then down in the south end, a lot following along the majors, PCH and Torrance, and then down on the Esplanade with all those high rises and garages. I did receive a number of messages. Unfortunately, I can only listen briefly in my spare time while I'm out here to some voicemails that make it through to my email, but I understand there was a large incident in the north end that involved a pursuit and a containment of 2 separate areas. So I'll have to defer. I don't really have any additional details. So I'm going to pass it off to Sergeant Mike Dyberg for an update on that situation and the impact to the public.
Hello, good evening. Mike Dyberg. I'm a sergeant with Redondo Beach Police Department, Work Community Services. In regards to the incident, it was Saturday, November 13th, about 6:30 p.m. City of Manhattan Beach had 2 victims of residential burglary. As Manhattan Beach officers responded, they believed to be behind one of the vehicles. Suspects fleeing the area. They initiated a vehicle pursuit. Of course, the pursuit comes right in Redondo Beach towards the area of Gates and Vale. Suspect crashes into a tree. They flee on foot. Multiple agencies were summoned. Containment, also canines. Suspects were not captured. However, there was tons of evidence collected at the scene, including clothing.
Thank you, sir. Aside from that, one other incident of note was a Estes robbery that was at 7-Eleven on 190th that had a short pursuit, and they ended up getting a couple suspects immediately in that area off of Hill Lane. That was a big one. They had some extensive criminal history and were both placed under arrest.
Officer Lofstrom, just before you go
Yes.
on, I'm not sure everybody knows what an Estes robbery is.
I apologize. An Estes robbery. A robbery is the taking of somebody's property by the means of force or fear. In a court case involving a gentleman named with the last name of Estes, it was determined that a robbery can still occur even if the person protecting the interest or the person who is a victim of force or fear is not the exclusive owner of the property. So this typically happens when somebody is in charge of protecting assets from a business, like loss prevention employees at a Kohl's or a Target, or in our case, a 7-Eleven. If force or fear are used on an agent or a representative that's protecting that business by some means, it still qualifies as a robbery, and they are an additional victim to that robbery, as well as the business itself.
Thank you.
So that happened at 190th. What went from a shoplifting to a robbery is those circumstances, the means of force or fear that upgrade it to a robbery instead of a shoplifting, petty, or grand theft.
Was that also the same 7-Eleven where somebody was punched when they tried to stop a loss prevention? Was that a separate incident, or is that the same one that I read?
Are you referring to something recent?
Yes, in the crime report. I think somebody noticed somebody trying to take something. They confronted them and they got punched. Maybe I missed something.
That's not an unusual occurrence per se. So I would have to look into it. But that's the one of most note because obviously the two suspects fled and ended up in a residential area where people were calling 911 and they were both taken into custody and they had some extensive criminal history.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any other comments, or Officer Lostrom, if you'd like to continue with any other salient reports?
I just would like to continue. I included some call for service information that breaks down by each area. The only thing of note is officer initiated calls. Obviously, at the onset of the pandemic, were substantially lower. Not necessarily calls for service, but officer initiated activity like traffic stops and pedestrian stops, etc. during the initial months of the pandemic. And this year we've returned to, and nearly every month this year has been a return to more so the average of what was typical over the last 5 years. So with that being said, I know I normally like to do my little breakdown for the month on our stats and arrests and stuff, but I didn't have access to that being far away because I do like to try and rival Jason May's skills on the Zoom meetings. So that being said, I have concluded this portion, and if there are any questions, I would be happy to take them now.
Commissioners.
Yes, this is Commissioner Kleinbaum. I just wanted to make a general comment. I walk my dog many hours every day during the day and the evening, and I've seen an increase, at least from my perspective. There's a lot of police activity in the area. I don't know if you've noticed that or you have statistics to show that that's the case.
Well, I wouldn't say anything abnormal. Obviously, sometimes police activity is very random, and when it's not one place, it's occurring in another place. And sometimes, as somebody, there is some sort of confirmation bias effect. Obviously, as a member of the Public Safety Commission, it's like when you buy a red car and then all of a sudden you see a lot of red cars, your mind's obviously focused on public safety a lot of the time. So if there is some more activity in your area, not necessarily a statistically different amount of activity, but just geographically and coincidentally more in an area where you walk your dog, then that's obviously potential. But there was nothing substantially of note. There is obviously a big difference compared to last year during the pandemic, but in regards to the last 5 years, it wasn't anything outside of typical.
Commissioners Hannan, Gupta, Marinelli, or Kuig, any other questions to Officer Lostrom?
I think it's a good time to segue into something that I had looked at today, and I went into the trying to prepare for this meeting, by the way, I went into the crime information in the Redondo Beach website, and I found that we have crime statistics, we have community bulletins, we have news flashes, we have weekly crime reports, we have recent law enforcement events, we have crime reports via crime mapping, which is by district. We have a crime prevention report, and one of the most important thing is the press releases that the police department releases on, most fairly substantial events. And but what I didn't see in there, and I was a little bit kind of surprised, is that, I think we all feel, being a Redondo Beach resident for 41 years, I've always felt like we have the best police department in the nation. I always felt like we have a really good, active, police department that, we probably have some of the best records in maybe California. So I decided I'd Google, the safest cities in California. And there's a lot of different websites. Some of them are really valid, like ARP, League of American Bicyclists. There's Safe Communities. There's organizations that really have very valuable, I think, and worthwhile information. But what it does, it shows how we compare with other cities in California. And obviously this affects our city's reputation, it affects resale values. And it's most importantly, it's how other non-residents from other cities that may be considering moving into Redondo Beach view our city. And yet I don't see anything at all with that type of metric. I have a background of 45 years in aerospace where I live and die by and make decisions, big decisions, based on metrics. And my department had to be evaluated against not only itself, but also against similar organizations and how well we were performing. Anyway, I think these benchmark and baseline reports have value, and I was wondering if we consider anything like this. And I think it'd really be worthwhile, rather than us tell ourselves, how well we perform. Maybe we could use that to compare with other cities in California, just to see. And just a note, is I went into Google the safest cities in California, and I found Redondo Beach rated number 79 out of over 250 California cities. So I think we're probably pretty good, but it would be interesting to see that. And then that may be an aspirational goal for us, maybe that's something we should try to achieve. Anyway, that's my comment.
So you're specifically referring to a statistical comparison with other cities?
Yeah, I mean, there was another, I think it was ARP that does this safest cities. And I was looking at, 2019 data, but Danville, Rancho Santa Margarita, Yorba Linda, Murrieta are the most safest city, the top 5 most safest cities in California. Those are cities that are local. I mean, what are they doing? I mean, it could be culture, it could be demographics, could be a lot of things, but would it be worthwhile to take a look at these things and as an aspirational goal for the city of Redondo Beach to actually achieve a higher ranking than we might today?
I think that's interesting, but what are the specific, metrics? I think that's what we have to come up with, and what are the actual metrics that these scales are using?
I absolutely agree with that. I think that if we look at Swithers data, for example, I mean, that's a California, it's actually Redondo Beach data that rolls into Swithers data. And Tim's, which we all know is out of Berkeley, California, Berkeley University. And they reformat this data into reports, and it's comparative reports. What are safety records on our streets compared with local communities, even, Hermosa, Manhattan Beach, similar demographics, how do we compare with those? That information is readily available, but you're right. I think we have to be specific on what we're looking for, and then certainly measurements that, if we want to take this on and we want to try to improve it statistically, we need to know exactly what we're getting ourselves into. But I'm just kind of wondering if this committee would be sensitive to maybe going in that direction slowly and cautiously, but I think it would be worthwhile.
I agree with that. I mean, if we come up with, whatever metrics roll up and then monitoring those metrics, I think that's what you're saying, right? And monitoring them from a time to time basis and seeing if there's any specific interventions to kind of help specific things. I think that'd be good to try to improve on these public measurements to resale values for a lot of reasons.
Well, last but not least, I don't know if you're familiar with Vision Zero, but Vision Zero is being implemented by a lot of very large communities, including downtown Los Angeles. And you're right, when you look at a chart and see it gives a number, I mean, it's meaningless until you break it down, decompose that data, take a look at it, and come up with what intersections are the most dangerous, what streets are the most dangerous, where are my incidences happening? And then you break that down, decompose that data into something that you can actually use to look at the hot spots in your city and make sure you improve those community or specific areas. So it can be very useful used in the proper way.
May I make a suggestion? We used to have this quarterly review subcommittee, and it's probably time for a quarterly review, but it almost sounds like the two of you would be good on that subcommittee, do a little homework together, maybe in the January meeting, come up with a SWOT analysis that you'll follow, and then maybe do something with that in the April meeting. But that would be just one way to angle it. Might as well use the subcommittee vehicles, and that would be part of that quarterly review title that's in the subcommittee. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I'd be happy to work with anybody that would like to take this on, and we could do some notional, aspirational charts, reports, and just see what it looks like and see if it's palatable to this board and see if they have, you find value in this. If you do, then we could go forward with maybe putting some calories in it.
Yeah, I would love to work on that. That sounds really interesting.
That's what I was going to suggest to Commissioner Galls, that we have a quarterly report committee. Maybe that would be a good implementation of that committee. And perhaps if Commissioner Hannon and Gupta want to do that, I would make a motion to have them do a presentation at the next meeting as to what they've come up with, like in terms of matrix or how to even accomplish that goal.
We'll come up with more specifics. This was certainly very broad, this conversation, but okay, that'd be great.
I heard a motion for it. Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
Roll call, Officer Lostrom.
Commissioner Hannon,
Yes.
Commissioner Coig,
Yes.
Commissioner Marinelli,
Yes.
Commissioner Gupta,
Agree.
Chair Gall,
Approve.
and Commissioner Kleinbaum.
Yes.
So approved.
I make a motion to close J4. I need a second.
I second the motion.
Commissioner Hannon,
Yes.
Commissioner Coig,
Aye.
Commissioner Marinelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Gupta,
Agree.
Chair Gall,
Aye.
and Commissioner Kleinbaum.
Approve.
So closed.
J5, community policing events.
All right. Again, my name is Officer Kyle Ostrom. I also handle this portion of the discussion here. It's only been 1 month since we met, so the list is a little shorter than your average. But we had a homeless court on October 20th. 2 events that came back after a hiatus from COVID were the Domestic Violence Candlelight Vigil and the National Drug Take Back Day. So the Candlelight Vigil was a great event. We go out in front of the station, and Jason May, you'll appreciate this. We actually use glow sticks instead of candles now for fire safety. So I just want to throw that out there to you. Just glow sticks. So super safe. Still gets the effect. They were purple, actually. Purple is the color for Domestic Violence Month. National Drug Take Back Day, we got 747 pounds was the final tally of returned prescription drugs on that day from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
That's a lot.
We had our first Cops and Corn. You guys may have been familiar with the Cops and Snow Cones over the summer. We have switched to popcorn. So, I don't claim to be an expert, but I've heard it's the best popcorn in the area. So keep an eye out for our next Cops and Corn event. We had a fantastic Halloween movie night on Friday the 29th, where we showed one of the best Halloween movies of all time, not Christmas, The Nightmare Before Christmas. So that was a good event. We had probably over 100 people. We put on some carnival games and then showed a movie and handed out that popcorn I was talking about. After some public demand, we had a catalytic converter etching on a weekend morning. So we had a weekend morning. We opened it to about 100 reservations to manage it, since it was a shorter time period, and it helps with the towing company staff to have a smaller number of trucks. And we etched about 60 cars, I think. We had 60 people show up. Upcoming events, if you guys have been to a paint and pour before, we have a police-friendly version, which means, don't mean to disappoint any of you, but no alcohol. It's called Cops and Canvas. So one of our police officers is a gifted artist, and we saw an opportunity there for some community engagement.
That's
for her
good.
to teach a paint and pour like class that we're calling Cops and Canvas.
Would kids be a good market for that?
I think we set it at age 14 and up, so that
Okay.
we can have some level of an more advanced kind of teaching session.
Cool.
But nothing is out of the question for the future. Or I mean, some things are, but upcoming is the Coat and Toy Drive for our domestic violence advocacy program. And it's getting pretty big. The Let It Snow Redondo event coming. So we're trucking in about 20 tons of snow into the Seaside Lagoon, and we're setting up an entire Christmas event for all the kids. Santa will be there. So you can see him once before he comes down the chimney there on the 25th. And a number of other things, crafts and cocoa and all sorts of stuff. But we think the snow is going to be a big hit since we don't get any snow down here in Redondo Beach. There's another homeless court upcoming, like I said, on the 17th, and then again on December 15th, if you want to put that on the calendars. We're doing a fingerprint merit badge and a traffic and fire safety merit badge for the Boy Scouts of America, and the firemen are going to help us out with that. There's a Red Cross blood drive hosted by the police department on January 6th, and we plan to continue with our Martin Luther King Day celebration on January 17th at the Redondo Beach Police Station, much like 2 years ago. And that concludes the community policing report.
Great. Do I hear a motion? Go ahead.
Is there any questions? Sorry.
No
Yeah,
worries.
I mean, all those events sound awesome. 2 things. When is that Seaside Lagoon? I have 3 daughters. I would love to take them there. The snow.
December 4th.
December 4th? Okay.
Yes, it's called Let It Snow Redondo. That's on December 4th from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Yeah, I'll definitely bring my daughters there. That's number 1. Number 2, can you just talk a little bit more about that the prescription program?
So the Drug Enforcement Administration runs a program called the National Drug Take Back. So Redondo Beach has historically been one of the drop-off sites for the drug take-back. We were not doing it for a little bit because of COVID. They briefly allowed more or some sites to open back up. So in our case, they reached out to us, but not because we're a bigger drop-off site and had a larger amount collected historically. They selected a few areas geographically by some statistical means. So we were able to open up compared to like Manhattan Beach or El Segundo that didn't. So essentially what we do is we run a drop-off site and a DEA agent is present with myself and a number of our volunteer staff, and people are free to anonymously basically come and drop off any sort of prescription drugs. We typically accept over the counter, but obviously like any illegal narcotics are not accepted. Marijuana is not accepted. It's mostly meant to be, these prescription drugs, and they can come anonymously, no questions asked, drop it off. We collect everything and we weigh it, and then the DEA agent actually takes it and they have an incineration site where it all gets destroyed. So people aren't flushing them down the toilet or losing them to be found by children or abused, etc. So a lot of stuff can happen to those things, especially if there's a death in the family or in the event of a burglary or something like that. Those can get out there and be dangerous. So we like to participate in that with the DEA to serve the residents of Redondo Beach in that fashion.
Really cool. Yeah, I mean, in the hospital we see tons of people, with benzos, opiates, and it's obviously a plague we all know about. So that's really good. Cool.
Any other commissioners have questions? Okay, hearing none, may I hear a motion to close J5? Anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I second the motion.
Commissioner Hannan,
Yes.
Commissioner Koenig,
Aye.
Commissioner Marinelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Gupta,
Approve.
Chair Gall,
Aye.
Commissioner Kleinbaum.
Approve.
Okay, great. Let's go to the volunteer and policing report. Officer Lofstrom.
The volunteer and policing program coordinator had not gotten an updated report at the creation of the agenda. So we'll have to provide it on the next one, for October.
Okay, great. So do I need a motion to close or just move on to the next referrals to staff?
I'll make a motion to close.
There you go.
You hear a second?
I second the motion.
All right, go ahead.
Commissioner Hannan,
So move.
Commissioner Koenig,
Aye.
Commissioner Marinelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Gupta,
Agree.
Chair Gall,
Aye.
and Commissioner Kleinbaum.
Approve.
Okay, referrals to staff. Let's start with the new commissioners. This would be a good time for anyone to perhaps agendize something or at least refer something to staff for action to look into in between the meetings. Let's start with Commissioner Hannan.
Well, this probably would have been the best time for me to bring a couple items up, but I think I already have talked about these items.
Okay.
Particularly the new commission subcommittee and coming up with a title for that and an approach for the active transportation e-devices. Secondly, for maybe a different generation of metrics that, I think that could be helpful. But, we'll draft something out and get your opinion on it. So, thank you.
You're welcome. The two action items are well summarized and you're on the same page with that, Officer Lofstrom?
Yes.
Cool. Dr. Gupta, go ahead.
I agree with, Dr. Hannan about Commissioner Hannan about the new, the new metrics. But you mentioned earlier that you would love for me to agendize something about the EMS. Like, can you talk more about that a little bit? About the calls, the 911 calls, and we were talking about, helping to triage them better. And remember you said something like, how would agendizing that work?
I think we did agendize it,
help out a little
didn't
bit here. Commissioner Gall or President Gall, you mentioned our triage system and maybe giving him an overview or all of you an overview of what system we're looking at purchasing or moving forward with. I'd be happy to present that information when we actually select a system or are looking at selecting a system. It'd be a good education for me. I don't have a firm timeline on when I'm going to have a good answer for that on you or for you, but I'm happy to give you some sort of a presentation when that comes to fruition. I know it's funded as part of the budget. I'm just not sure where we are exactly in that procurement process. So
yeah, I think that makes sense.
I don't know if that needs to be agenda or for referral to staff, or if I can just include it in my normal monthly fire department activities report, but I'm happy to do either depending on the wish of the commissioners.
It would be interesting to have a presentation on technologies used by fire and emergency response departments on saving lives, like drones that drop life rafts in the ocean and stuff like that. But if you ever have an idea for Commissioner Gupta on the triage or other technologies, I think we'd all love to hear it. We love your presentations and thank you for your time. Commissioner Kuig, did you have any referrals to staff?
Not other than the one we talked about with the city prosecutor and the letter that we discussed.
I think I better burn a candle tonight, Officer Lostrom. Go ahead, Commissioner Marinelli, you're missing Monday Night Football. Maybe that's the reason, but go ahead, sir.
No, we were just coming back from an LPGA event in Florida, so it was an awfully early morning for me in Clearwater Beach, Florida. How about this question? Have we had any update from the state of California when we may actually be able to meet in public? These meetings, they're transparent, certainly. There's a written record, there's a video record, but we've had, since I was selected to participate on this commission last November, about zero public participation because of this format. Most people don't want to respond to this format. When may we meet in public? I've been on this for a year and I haven't met anybody personally yet. Do we have an update from anyone when we feel that being vaccinated and wearing a mask, can we go to city council chambers and meet?
As far as I understand from city clerk staff, it's virtual until further notice.
Wow.
Definitely disappointing.
The annex or the back patio of the Cheesecake Factory would work for me. But anyway, I would like to move on to Commissioner Kleinbaum. Last but not least.
Yes, I wanted to welcome the new commissioners, Commissioner Hannon and Dr. Commissioner Gupta. Welcome very much to the Public Safety Commission. I look forward to working with you. Thank you very much for volunteering. I'm also looking forward to the Active Transportation Subcommittee, or whatever we call it later, participating in that as well. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Great. I only have one comment from the public about Saturday night, and I'm sure you heard it a lot. And I know we talked about it last meeting, Officer Lostrom, was that the helicopters overhead and kind of the Everbright update was very vague, and it scared the crap out of a lot of the people at Anderson Park when they went home. They didn't know what was going on. And I know Officer Dyberg, you gave a very good report on it. Didn't sound like it was too major of an issue, but yeah, if any improvements on the dissemination of information can be provided such that people can be relatively at ease, but not disrupting any legal processes, that would be appreciated. And I know that's easier said than done, but that was the feedback given from a member of the public. But I just like to say thank you all for your service and your prompt response to all our inquiries. And I've had stuff on my block, and I'm sure everybody else has. And the city services are excellent. And I look forward to seeing if there's any other referrals to staff or if we should adjourn the meeting.
Prior to your adjournment, Chair Gall. The scheduled date and time for the next meeting is a federal holiday on January 17th. So according to my liaison reference guide here, regular meetings are meetings occurring at the dates and times and location set by resolution, ordinance, or other formal action by the legislative body. Regular meetings must be open to the public, and the liaison shall make sure the meeting room doors are open at all times. That applies to an in-person meeting. So due to that, you would have to make some formal action as a legislative body to have a regular meeting on a different date prior to the next scheduled, which would be the third Monday in March.
Does the city
just to let you guys know, sorry, I have some information here that
no problem
stated. Someone from the planning, or Sean Scully rather, from the planning manager from the community development office is planning a presentation on something that I don't have right off the top of my head because it's written on a piece of paper on my desk. Is a hazard mitigation safety plan or something along those lines. And his if we wanted to include him on the January meeting, that presentation, which I think was done in October of 2019 last, the fourth Tuesday, January 25th, and the fourth Thursday, January 27th, were ideal options for him. So to have a regular meeting, there would need to be formal action by the legislative body, because otherwise it is a federal holiday.
Meaning we should make a motion to change the date of our next meeting?
Right, you would make the regular meeting sometime other than the 17th, but not, after the following scheduled meeting.
Do I hear any? Go ahead.
I was just going to suggest if we do it on the 25th, make a motion, because then we can have that presentation since he's available. And since it's by Zoom, we're not in restrictions to using the hall for the meeting. So I would make a motion that we have the meeting at the regular time on January 25th.
I second that.
And to a vote. Sorry, I lost my sheet. I like to do it in the same order every time. My personal preference to do it in the same order. Commissioner Hammond.
Approve.
Commissioner Koenig.
Approve.
Commissioner Marinelli.
Aye.
Commissioner Gupta.
Approve.
Chair Gall.
Approve.
And Commissioner Kleinbaum.
Approve.
So upon your adjournment, your next meeting date can be stated as Tuesday, January 25th, next meeting of the Public Safety Commission.
Okay. The next meeting of the Public Safety Commission will be Tuesday, January 25th, 7 p.m. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
So wait, one more thing before we adjourn. Do we have to agendize the presentation? Do we have to make a motion, or that's just going to happen?
I'll take care of it.
Okay.
Okay.
However, it needs to be done.
Have a happy holiday, everybody, and happy
Yeah.
New Year.
Thank you. You too. Nice to meet everybody.
You guys
Nice to meet you.
Everyone. Maybe we'll
Welcome
meet
to
each
the
other in
committee.
person someday.
Yeah.